Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I'd like to state for the record that the entire proceeding this evening, except any executive sessions, are being recorded for both TCTV Cable Station 8 and the TCTV YouTube channel. Therefore, there is no need for additional recording. However, if you are recording, just please let us know. As always, our agenda for this evening has been set no later than 48 hours out by law and is publicly available at the official source for town information, templetonma.gov. I would also remind all citizens of our 4 villages to sign up or register for emergency updates using the code red system. It's on the left-hand side at the bottom of the screen. Although I have the discretion as chairperson to add and remove from the agenda, it has been set to allow for time, personnel resources, and public awareness. I reserve the right to move the agenda items around to best fit our business and guests. Thank you. At this time, is there any public comment? Okay. Great, we're going to jump right in. Item 4A is meeting minutes. We've got 2 sets of minutes to approve this evening. October 23rd, I think that was pending a fix, and then November 13th. Yep, 10:23 and 11:13. They're all in the packet.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, October 23rd, 2019, as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for 10:23. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion on the motion to that's been seconded for approving the minutes for 10:23. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 13th, 2019, as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the minutes, approval of the minutes for 11:13. Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the minutes for 11:13 as presented. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Takes care of the minutes. We have no executive session minutes. Mr. Terrancini, do we have any new employees or board members with us tonight?
I have none this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And we are going to move into our public hearing. This is the second public, third total, but second amended public hearing for the Gilman Waite telephone pole. I will open the public hearing as of 18:36. Tom, good evening, how are you?
Good evening, good.
We have your letter with the explanation for the changes.
Okay, very good. Yes, so the reason for this second go-around for the public hearing is due to an oversight on my part. The location of the first pole that we were looking to put in for the lights for Gilman Waite can't be put where I originally thought due to...
We didn't get a photograph.
Yeah, I'll ask them.
Oh, okay,
We didn't get a photograph.
okay. I think I've got a couple extras.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would just like to move that pole across the street, and then because that pole moves, the next one down has to move also. So basically, the scope of the project is staying the same as far as running power into the park and putting up the 3 lights, you know, as we talked about in the informational hearing. Just 2 of the locations of the poles I'd like to change due to the logistics of where everything's laid out.
Okay.
I did send out a letter that you mentioned to each of the abutters, you know, personally kind of explaining what the reason for the secondary hearing is.
Okay.
And I did get a phone call from the resident at 144 Elm Street, just asking what we were doing. She, for some reason, thought that we were putting a light on that pole that was gonna be nearest her property, but I assured her that the lights were staying
Just
where
for
it was
power,
originally.
not
Just-
light.
Just, right, just for the wires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that resident here tonight? No? Okay.
Are there any abutters here?
Any abutters here? Okay.
Okay.
Do you mind if we take a look at the,
Sure. I've got it.
Even if we could just pass it down amongst ourselves, just to take a good look.
Okay, sure. That's the, I've got a picture of the original locations also, if you want to compare them.
yes. Thank you.
Can you peek at that?
Oh, wait.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
You're just going right on the opposite side of the street of the original plan, right?
On the
That's
first
the
one, and then the
original,
second one will be kind of across the parking lot.
Okay, yeah, all right.
This is the revised one. That one.
Is it revised, yeah. So 144 was the closest,
Yes, the
Okay.
closest house, yeah.
144? Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
good.
the 5-1 and the 5-2.
Mm-hmm. Here's
Like I
what I
said,
see.
the second two locations are staying the same, with the
Mhm.
same lighting, the same schedule, the same plan.
Are there any opponents that would like to speak tonight? Okay, board member questions? Hearing none. Tom, what's your recommendation?
I would recommend it.
Okay. All right, at this time, I'm gonna close the poll hearing at 6:40. Okay, hearing is closed. Thank you. I appreciate it, Tom.
Thank you.
Any comments or deliberation based on the information? I don't have any. I thought it was, well, I understood what the scope is, doesn't changed. We didn't have any opponents to it, so.
I make a motion to approve the installation of one utility pole on Michael's Lane and 3 poles at Gilman Waite Field as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion that has been seconded for the one utility pole on Michael's Lane and 3 poles at Gilman Waite Field as presented, how do you vote? Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, very excited. Next is our presentation for the recreation study recommendations. Doctor, if you want to come up.
Sure.
You brought a great team with you.
Thank
Got to
you.
meet them beforehand. That's excellent.
So my name is Charles DeStefano. I'm the director of the Masters of Public Administration program at Westfield State, and I'm teaching a course this semester, organizational behavior. So with the course, I redesigned it this semester to be more civically engaged, so that our students can work with a committee partner on the project that the partner needs, so they can get the benefit of the students, and the students get that practical experience. So excited to work with you all, and with Adam, who is one of our recent graduates. So I let him know that I was looking for partners to work with, and he was great in helping me, identify a project, and then to be being able to have the students and you interact and work on this.
All right.
So my job has been more coaching and maybe some gentle advice, but it's really been the students who have worked very hard this semester.
Awesome.
To find a great policy proposal for you.
Yeah.
So they've been doing a lot of research, working hard on this. And I'd like to introduce them
Sure.
individually. I'll let them introduce themselves. So if you can, tell us who you are, how far along you are in the program, possible career goals, or something else about yourself.
So my name is Jeff. I'm actually from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I work as a police dispatcher in Shrewsbury. I graduated from Westfield as an undergrad with a degree in criminal justice and psychology in 2018, and then just continued my education while I had to pay off all the student loans. So I have
Thank you,
a
Betsy
little over a
DeVos.
semester left in the public administration program. Passes at capstone, so looking forward to this. This is the first time I've been to a town meeting, so this is interesting.
Excellent.
I believe some you guys too as well for the first town meeting.
Same. This is my first time at a town meeting as well. My name is Phil, and I also graduated from Westfield State in 2018, though I majored in history. I'm a graduate assistant at the university now, and this is my first semester in my MBA program.
Great, welcome.
Hello, my name is Ashley. This is my first semester at Westfield. I just graduated last May, from UMass Boston with a degree in environmental science. Right now I work at a bank as a teller, but I'm trying to get a job in this local government as a town clerk, and hopefully continuing that career into the future. It's not my first town meeting.
Board of
but
Selectmen
excited-
meeting.
Yeah, excited to be here for this one.
Great.
It is my first town meeting. My
Oh,
name
okay.
is Leland. I'm from Westfield. I just graduated from Westfield State with a bachelor's in political science and history.
Well,
Now it's my first semester in the MBA program. I'm also a graduate assistant at Westfield State, and I'm looking for possibly a degree in career in higher education.
Nice.
My name is Ben Warren. I'm just shy of halfway done with a master's public administration at Westfield. I'm a mid-career person who's come back and just started the program right now. I currently work as a deputy fire chief in the city of Westfield, and I've been to a lot of town meetings and some of the surrounding communities that I live in around the area.
wow. What a great team. I mean, talk about the undergrad experience kind of all meshing together. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And I will get out of the way now and let them go for it.
Just go ahead. I'll do my slide for any other questions are clicking away.
What an exciting team.
I know.
Wow,
Very exciting.
very impressive.
All right, so I've been tasked with clicking the slides through, so I'll kind of stand here
driving.
while the rest of the group
You're driving.
stands over here. Yeah, I'm in the driver's seat. So kind of to build off of what Dr. DiStefano said, we come from a bunch of different backgrounds, different fields. Currently, Ben mentioned he's from fire. I'm in the police side. We have full-time students, different areas. We're from all different parts of Massachusetts, as far west as Pittsfield, as far east to the Worcester area, and then some of you guys are from around Westfield. So we brought together a diverse group of people to come and do a project. None of us really knew each other prior to this project, other than maybe a class or two here and there that we took together. So it was a bunch of different people coming together from different areas and different fields with different ideas. And I think that helped collectively bring a bunch of new ideas that we hope can help you guys with your recreation departments. I'll just briefly go over what we're gonna go over tonight. So some of the things we're gonna do and our objectives tonight and with this project were to examine how Templeton relates to comparison communities, and the communities we're using, I believe, are the same ones you guys use in your other departments. Some of the ones, Ashburnham, Athol, Ayer, Dudley, Monson, Montague, am I saying that right?
Montague.
Montague, close enough. As you can tell, some of us aren't from around here. Orange, Shirley, Townsend, and Wichita, all similar communities that kind of compare well to Templeton. So we're going to assess the current offerings in recreation. Obviously, the people in Templeton are more familiar with that than we were originally, but for us to be able to study it and kind of give recommendations and suggestions, we need to understand what was being offered and what we thought of it and what our recommendations were in regards to that. And then to build off that, make recommendations for future offerings based on what we see and what we think would be a good idea. So we'll also be identifying current and expanded sources of revenue. From what we'll dive into this deeper later on, but the Recreation Department has a very small budget in Templeton compared to other towns, and from what I'm familiar with in towns in my area at least. So we're gonna try and find expanded sources of revenues for that, and then also provide options for planning the future sustainability. We can present great ideas to you, but if that's not sustainable, that didn't really do our job. So we're gonna try and build a plan for some sustainability as well. I'll turn this over.
So, as I talk about this, the present situation in Templeton with the recreation, basically, so we got, the list from Adam of what you guys offer currently. So we're looking at youth soccer, youth basketball, youth softball, swimming, and men's basketball.
Swimming instructor.
We have heard a lot about the swimming.
I am sure you
And
have.
I'm really sorry if some of our recommendations don't follow.
Of course,
exactly.
you
But,
know, I knew it was coming. Have to get
yes.
around us somehow.
So, yeah, we did find, you do have a variety of things that you offer. There is a huge expanse of things, like when you look at all the other towns, there's really a mix of different things in different towns. So I've tried to pull some that are all very similar and just focus on those and not so much as like the other things, and we'll add that in our recommendations later. With the ones that we can directly compare with other towns, we found that there's a lower than average, or a lower average comparable fees. Like, you guys charge a lot less for the same things that other towns do. And again, limited funding can also be directly correlated to that. You charge so much, like really significantly less for a lot of things that the towns that you presented us with as being economically comparable to, they charge a lot more.
And sorry to interrupt, just one other thing I forgot to mention when I was talking to a benefit of our group coming in and doing this for you guys. Completely non-biased. We have no ties to Templeton. We're all from outside, like I mentioned. So all our offerings are what we're seeing from an outside perspective. Just wanted to mention that. I figured I'd throw that in there.
Ashley, before you start with this slide, so do you have an example? I know I lived in Winchendon for years, and I know that they had the Clark Center. I don't know if that was part of. Did you look at different services and then do cost compare? You did a cost comparison for what they're charging,
Basically, yes. So I went through.
and it was very skewed, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
I went through every single town that was on the list of comparable towns
Yeah.
that you guys gave us. And that included looking at the actual town website as to what they offer.
Okay.
If they had Facebook links, going to Facebook and seeing what their towns are promoting for
Yeah.
sports that they sponsor. in
A lot of
some way.
digital investigation. Okay. Yeah.
And there was a lot of digging because, like you said, there's a lot of different
Yeah.
areas, like some to Clark Center, some are.
Do you have an
really-
example?
Yep. So of course on the sheet I didn't write down super specific things, but
Okay.
like, trying to remember what it was called. There were some towns, like Ayer and Shirley, coupled for a lot of things that they offer. And then there are some other ones that are offered, that were like North Shore, like South Shore type.
Okay.
And those were more for Boston, but there was something like that that was, multiple towns come together. and-
Regional offering.
regional.
Yeah.
And the prices for those tended to be a lot more.
Okay.
And then some of the ones I looked at specifically directed you to go like kind of through the school. They had like a private thing you had to log in and sign up for sports that way, and those
Okay.
were considerably more.
Okay.
But even just looking at the ones that were through, I guess like just local public offerings through whatever platform, they all tended to be a lot more. A lot of them were more like clinic-based or
Okay.
camp-based.
Got it.
But overall, considerably more.
Okay. Thank you.
Were there any that offered swimming on a pond?
I do not think so.
Most
I
of them
think
were
that
probably
there
big
was one-
facilities like Clark and
Yeah.
YMCA, not a dinky little fish and game club pond.
In Ayer, they do have sandy
That's
pond
free.
beach,
Yeah.
which I didn't go there and investigate what type of pond that was. And for them, swimming is free to residents, $5 for non-residents.
How about that?
But they do charge for swimming pools, about $50 to $60 for residents.
How long is it last? Did you say the duration?
I think they did, and I did not write that down. A lot of the swimming that I investigated, I think there were 3 towns that had pretty specific data, which is included within our report. Ayer, Munson, and Montague had more specific data. And it kind of varied between them. Like Montague offers like memberships for wherever they have their, you can go and have a membership, and it's either like a season pass or you can do a certain amount. And then the actual cost to just go swimming is not very much, $3 to $5, depending on if you're a resident, your age, and all that good stuff. But they still offer lessons, and I think they were about 4-week like courses, once or twice a week. They also offered a lot of other stuff like water aerobics and summer camps, and etc. But none of them were free, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Now, one of the main things that we wish to start off with, admittedly, we did get a little sidetracked, but we also wanted to talk about what's currently working in the current system. And one thing we have noticed is that there is clearly a member, like a group of dedicated volunteers who are committed to trying to make the program as best as it possibly can. We also believe that just reaching out to us and being willing for us to research this shows a level of being open to new ideas and wanting to find methods of improvement. We also believe that there's amount of support in the town itself for programming, which we will get into later with our survey. And we also believe with current offerings with the kids for basketball and for baseball, etc., that there is a solid foundation for youth programming at the moment.
So I did have more data in my text, which I didn't have, but I was looking for. So back to the comparison towns that we were talking about. Again, we looked at towns that you gave us that were economically comparable. To repeat what we've already talked about.
And those towns are very important for us. We actually vote on those yearly to basically update those things, because we use those as the barometer to make sure that we're looking to our left and right. So definitely, Adam providing the list to you was no small. It wasn't like just a random thing. It was definitely a product that we produce.
Exactly, because you want to be like on par with the people that are around you.
A quick note, we did notice there was a large difference in the fiscal years, like with the current one that Adam provided. There was also another one that we had previously looked into just a year earlier, and there were a lot of differences in median household income. So it is very important that we got the most updated information.
Great.
I love the low-income population statistic.
So overall, when looking through the fiscal statistics, as well as just looking through comparable towns, we did find the average mean household income in Templeton is significantly higher compared to the other towns on average. And as we see, there's also about a little over 1% lower average low-income population as well.
Sorry, I just heard you. Just to clarify, that's all those towns combined, what those would be in years compared to all of them.
Yes.
And there is a comparison chart of each of the communities that I believe is being passed around to the board now. So it details the information per community, including the median income and the per capita the percentage of low income or moderate income folks.
Just to say, this is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
This is Beth.
We were a bit late. Google, for some reason, brought us to a bar as opposed to here, which I'm not sure I'm going to argue with necessarily, but we thought we should come here first and then return to the bar later.
Besides the diversity of majors and places that they've come from academically, we all come from different places regionally as well, and live in different places.
Great.
this is kind of just continuing on the same tangent we had originally gone off on, that a lot of the other minimums in towns are more expensive than what you are currently asking for a fee schedule.
Who's charging $400 for something?
That was for hockey.
Hockey.
Hockey's significantly more
That
costly.
was
Yeah.
mentioned
than
in
it
was
is
that?
for-
Yes.
It's on the comparison sheet.
That-
It
Yeah.
will tell you
Just
specifically
to-
which
yeah.
community is charging the high fees.
Yes, just to clarify, the average of highest fees were more around 120 to 150. 400 is an outlier.
Yes, by a lot. And again, I think that a lot of them are offered through other platforms that kind of make them more expensive. The one I was trying to think of was Pop Warner, which is something that is offered through like a regional type thing, and then having things like travel, sports, of anything,
Right.
also make it more expensive. But we've also seen that there's like a gradient between offerings in other towns, like when you're offering to kindergartners, that's when you offer lower prices, and then as you get like older kids, you have it a little bit more expensive. So a lot of other towns, we saw basically the offering for like kindergartners is being lower, which is about on par what you guys are asking for the fee schedule, for soccer, and I think for basketball as well. And then a lot of other towns, it increases a good $10 to $30, and yours just, stays flatlined. So we would definitely recommend increasing.
Okay.
In order to determine how well Templeton communicates the recreation offerings that they have with their community, we looked at the Templeton Recreation Department Facebook page as well as the Templeton website. The Templeton Recreation Department Facebook page actually has quite adequate engagement with the community. Currently, they have over 800 likes on Facebook. They post regularly, on average about 5 posts per week, and those posts relate to renovations at Gilman, Waite Field, new registrations for sports that's going to be coming up, as well as some videos of practice, team practice. And the community's response is not well, but fair. From what I've seen, anywhere from 0 to 80 likes per post. Compared to the website is very bland. If you go to the Recreation Department link of the website, it's almost blank. There's very, I think the only activity mentioned is swimming, and there's
Thank
no
God.
other recreation offerings listed on the website, nor is there contact information, and neither is there a welcoming remark to invite people to like the Facebook page. When we first met with the Recreation Commission, they expressed a lack of time and resources to commit to social media usage, but we have some recommendations that we'll present at near the end of this presentation that will help you work around that.
Great.
I guess that's me.
I love the honesty aspect of this is really, really good too. So it's good to hear bad news sometimes.
That was kind of what I forgot to
Yeah.
mention when I was talking. We have no bias here. We don't have any actual ties to
Perfect.
Templeton. We want to help you guys,
Yep.
and sometimes just getting 100% great news isn't going to do that.
Right.
We want to tell you what
And
we
I
see
can't
from the
fire you
outside.
guys, right?
That too.
So we conducted a survey that ultimately received 80 responses from residents in the community. It was online from November 18th to December, it's still up active, actually. We haven't had a response in a couple of 3 days. The general response from the survey was a much greater than anticipated willingness to pay, than expected to pay more. Folks across the board seemed open to paying more for recreation in town, with the caveat that they were hoping to get more offerings as well. There was a definite desire to add more activities for adults, and there seems to be an opportunity to recruit more volunteers simply by more awareness of the fact that they're needed. If you could flip to the next slide. Some of the highlights of the survey, and there were 14 questions that were related directly to recreation. We asked the question regarding how much you would want to pay for fees in several different fashions to be able to assess the desire to pay more. And the lowest response we got throughout the survey was around 44% would support some increase. And that was the most extreme pay structure. We had offered at one point a $250 annual payment fee to participate in any sports you wanted, and that was the lowest response in a positive fashion. When we offered that actually I'm skipping ahead of myself, let me go back here. So 34% of respondents indicated they were unable to participate in activities as often as they want, but only 8% indicated the cost was a reason. Now one of the challenges of this survey is that the demographics are slightly higher income than the community as a whole, but still almost 25% of respondents to the survey indicated that they had an income below the median income, and the average, according to the state, is closer to 30%. So it's a little discrepancy, but it's not terribly different from what actually we saw in the survey. So cost alone doesn't seem to be a driver for a lack of participation. The biggest reason that we noticed in the survey was just lack of time. If we go to the next slide. Of those who answered that they don't volunteer, 42.8 said that the reason they didn't was because they weren't aware there was a need, if they weren't asked. So there seems to be a definite need to communicate more effectively, which kind of points to the social media aspect that, we need to be reaching out more. But for the vast majority of folks who weren't able to volunteer, or didn't know that there was a reason, they weren't asked, basically. They didn't understand that there was a need, and they felt that there was no role for them in that opportunity.
Paul, so volunteered to.
We kept it vague, so just volunteer in any respect to recreation.
Oh, okay.
So
Whether
it might have been to volunteer as a coach, might have been to volunteer
okay.
to just drag people back and forth to games.
Okay.
We didn't specify, we went around and around about that, but if we specified, we're defining a role.
Yeah.
I think that there's clearly some level of people out there who think that they might want to do something, and they're just not sure what to do yet.
Okay.
We were able to identify 4 people who self-identified as willing to volunteer for recreation in town, and they provided a contact email or a phone number, and I'll forward those to the board once we're done here. We do have the full survey results that are available. We have to redact the demographic information because there are identifiers in there.
Yeah.
But I can certainly share the full survey with the board at a later date.
You said there was 14 questions total?
14 questions plus 3 demographic questions. Okay. The survey, the complete response runs to about 181 pages. If we can go to the next slide. Only 4% of the respondents felt the current recreation offerings were quote-unquote enough, and that was the language from the survey itself. Additional activities that were desired based upon the percentage of respondents. So they won't total to 100 because people could choose multiple responses. 62.5% of people who responded indicated they would like to see outdoor concerts. 52.5% wanted to see outdoor movies. 45% indicated a desire for additional sports. The same percentage for expanded hiking trails, and additional adult sports, I'm sorry. There was also significant support for craft activities for kids, which was 33.75% of the respondents indicated they'd be interested in that. And we threw this in there kind of because we thought there wouldn't be any response, but 23.75% of adults indicated they wanted to see some kind of craft activity or non-sports activity. Expanded bike trails were indicated by 33.75% and performing arts by 27.5%. So there's clearly a demand for additional activities, and a lot of these can be done, relatively inexpensively.
So a moment ago, you were talking. Who was talking about marketing? You were talking about. I don't think you used the term marketing, but it was about clicking likes and otherwise. And when you were saying that, I forgot that Steve was sitting over there. Steve is our director for the TCTV, and the other night he had said, we have a, I almost quote verbatim, we have a communication issue. I know that TCTV posts all kinds of stuff. Outdoor concerts, he's done it. Well, maybe not the hiking trails. Sorry, Steve, maybe not the hiking trails. But it's an interesting aspect to talk about how are we connected within ourselves. Our own, we're our own worst enemy in terms of marketing and otherwise. So this is really good to look at. I don't know, Steve, if you look at that and say, oh yeah, outdoor concerts, I got that covered. I can cover down on, sharing that information. But some of those other things, do we offer it, or do we just do a bad job of marketing it?
There is a piece too that's gonna be talked about later on, it's actually my piece, which has to do with fundraising and engagement. And I really kind of took on the engagement piece, because
Okay.
I think that that is certainly an element
Yeah.
that plays into a lot of this in terms of how engaged are people, where are they getting this information? Because it certainly looks like there's an interest, but
Yeah.
you're right, I think, which speaks to what you're saying. Do people know about it? Are they aware of it? Are they
Right.
invited? I mean, in the previous, we talked about, is that information getting out there? Do people
Yeah.
feel invited to come to these things? So,
Yeah, are we basically interlocking our capabilities? And I think that's what occurs to me when I look in, do we have recreation and marketing and things like that? So again, really good information.
We did cover Norcross Hill.
That's right.
And when asked the question if asking participants to pay more would help to expand recreational activities in Templeton, would you be willing to pay a reasonable amount to do so? 70.5% said yes, and only 29.5% said no. And we asked this question in a variety of ways. So on the next slide, you'll see that we listed a variety of different fees, and only 31.6% said that the current structure is about right. 68.4% indicated they would pay some other amount. And it might, it ranged from a low of $5 more to as much as $25 more. And we just provided a list of particular options that weren't what the current fee was. So there is significant, at least in this survey, significant support for an increased fee structure. But again, I think part of the trade-off is that they will expand the offerings as well.
Did you happen to ask what their income level was?
We asked the income level just for demographic information at the end. About 75% of the respondents were above the median income and 25% below.
That's,
So,
But only 8%. Go back to the 8% slide. 8% that cost was the reason why, and in terms of, so when they put the, I think it was like 20, you had 25%, it was 25 or 30 for low income, but then only 8%. So you have a huge difference between the 8% and that 25% income level. And that was significant, I think, because hardly anybody, based on income or anything, were basically saying, no, I wouldn't pay that. So even low income people were saying, yeah, we'd pay for it if it was fun.
and I think with the right fee structure, you'll see, if we do like a subscription service that we talk about, there's going to be enough revenue to be able to offset some of the costs for lower income folks as well. So I think, and especially if we partner that with fundraising and just a subscription service, there is definite potential to generate a significant amount more income and provide the subsidies for the low income folks and still provide a decent rec program.
So I think getting at what you guys were trying to figure out, the 25% below, that's the correct number, right?
25% of the
Below
survey
median.
fell below the median income.
And yet still only 8% of the total group
I
were
agree.
saying
I thought that was
cost is-
significant.
And the other thing to consider is the vast majority, and let me just grab some numbers.
So that essentially saying that there's a good chunk of people below the median that aren't participating, nothing to do with cost, that's not
Yep.
why.
And of those that are more or less at the median income, well, 38 out of 80 were within 25,000, 40,000 of the median. So, and that's either side of it. So it's still a reasonably accurate number. It's not perfect. These types of surveys tend to skew a little bit more higher income, but we still get 25% of the responses from people who were below the median income.
Great.
Good with this one.
Yes, we did that one. And then I thought this was particularly informative. When asked if they would pay a monthly fee of $25 per month rather than a per sport fee, 59.2% said yes. So nearly 60% of the respondents indicated that they would pay a subscription service of $25 a month. And you'll see later, if even 150 folks do that, you're going to generate about $45,000 in revenue. And I don't know how realistic it is to say that 145 families in Templeton will do that, but it doesn't seem like a huge stretch either. And that would give you a solid foundation to build the program and then look at some fundraising around that to help subsidize the program, to help subsidize low-income families, and to provide just a long-term foundation for the program.
So that's interesting. You said you offered $250 a year flat rate, and that's $25 a month, so
Just
that's
$300.
$50 extra,
$50 more. And
right?
they'd rather pay
hurts
this.
that we don't have a permanent home.
15% margin. They would rather pay the monthly
that's-
fee than get the discount for an annual fee.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, $25 a month isn't, in most folks' mind, that's not a big figure. And $25 a month would provide, for the rec program, it would amount to perhaps a 4 or 5-fold increase in funding.
$25 a month is typically less than people tend to pay for their
Yeah.
cell phone plans.
And
It's-
gym memberships.
Yep.
Right, a per sport fee, it's, you know, it's, you're in a silo. It's
Right.
just that, but if you have a subscription type service, you might have speakers, you might have someone who's gonna come in, you know, the Birds of Prey, traveling
Yep.
show and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. So you wind up having a program,
Typically,
you
if you
draw
do like a gym
volunteers.
membership, you do a monthly fee, you might go 8 months out of the year if you're lucky, and, you know, I belonged to a gym for a long time, and I paid my $10 a month, and I paid my $10 a month.
Whether you use it or not, right?
But, right,
Yeah.
and look at me, I paid my $10 a month.
You know, you
and
went
do
there, I
much
didn't
else.
go there.
But, you know, so there's probably a reasonable amount of revenue to be raised with almost no cost in that type of a program. And not that you want people not to use it, but it provides a foundation so that they can pick and choose activities they want throughout the course of the year. They can come in, they can go out when it's convenient for them, and you've got the revenue, and they've got the satisfaction of knowing they're able to participate when they want to. And so who's got this section? I can keep going, but.
No. So what we came up with for the conclusions here, that by reaching out and doing the community-based survey, that a lot of families in towns felt, felt that they could support the increased fee. By more than a 2-to-1 margin, the residents supported a fee increase if it would also expand offerings from the recreation department. And 62% indicated they could support higher fees when asked with a specific fee amount. So, go on to the next slide. So, an example of that is the monthly subscription-based service for allowing people to participate in all the fees. 60% supported that $25 a month fee, and that would give you up to, if 150 families did it, up to $45,000 a year. Now, we can't guarantee that that would be 150 families would do it, but it certainly would represent a larger amount of income in as opposed to the current budget of $9,000 a year that they place into the Recreation Commission budget. So a 500% of increase over the current funding level could go a long ways towards, you know, fixing equipment, getting newer equipment, and expanding fees and programs for the residents of the town. Also, we recommended a tiered fee structure. So first things first, we gotta start from the bottom of it. If the base fee is $30, increase it to $45 as a concrete step at the very beginning to start going in the right direction. Just to adjust your fees to be more in line with comparison towns and to generate more revenue. And then providing an option for the multi-sport subscription to try to further increase revenue there, to go above and beyond the $9,000 that you're already allocated.
And just to go off that one more thing, excuse me, like that increase that we recommend, say you're at $30 for a sport, whatever sport that is, boosting it to 45 is essentially putting it at what other surrounding towns or what your comparison communities are at. And with the 60% of people said in the survey said they were willing to increase the fees, you could justify that pretty easily just by saying that's what your surrounding communities are doing. That's what everyone else is doing. If you think our program needs more, we need to be at that equal fee structure as these other towns that offer more.
So, for my part, I kind of looked at the aspect of fundraising that might be possible for you all here. And I think that as I started to look at that, I really thought about how much a part of engagement with the community really could drive this and could really influence the amount of fundraising that you might be able to do, again, within the community. In looking at that and doing a bit of research, I was able to actually find a resource that I thought was a really great resource. It's a national organization that you may or may not be familiar with, which is called the National Recreation and Park Association. So they do quite a bit of research. They're a national organization. There is actually a community engagement resource guide, which I would be happy to share with you, which has really great information about how communities can fundraise, better engage with their communities. It has a lot of really kind of good step-by-step kind of instructions on how you could go about doing that. It can be complex on some levels, but it can also be very simple. I think one of the things that sort of stood out for me, and I think that it kind of goes without saying, that someone would have to kind of drive that. There would have to be an individual that was willing to kind of step up and kind of take a little bit of control with that. However, in doing this bit of research also, they talked a lot about forming just a small committee. And again, that could be something bigger, but that could be just a couple of people who are interested in kind of moving forward a lot of the things that I think that were discussed here, particularly I think as it relates to things like movie nights or you know, different fundraising events, or just events you might have that you could also couple along with fundraising events. So some of the things that they talked about, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, would be a lot of sort of, again, having somebody that could kind of head that up, spearhead that, you know, form some kind of a committee that could come together that could talk about those kinds of things. And then really kind of establishing what they call a park foundation. But again, it could be simply a group of people who came together to talk about that. But really doing some strategic planning around that. They also talked quite a bit about developing a case statement, which really is nothing more than sort of having some sort of mantra that really kind of speaks to what your mission is. And I think that that really ties in well with sort of your Facebook presence and your social media presence, to really be able to kind of, you know, bring that full circle. You know, if you have a local station where you're doing that, I think that, you know, if you could really bring all of those things together, that could be really helpful. You might want to develop some sort of annual fund development plan, a membership campaign. They also talked a lot about doing a signature event. I sort of looked at one of, or at least some of the signature events that are sort of out there. There was one that was actually it's held in the second, oh my gosh, where's there? So it's Family Fitness Day. I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but the second Saturday in June each year is Family Fitness Day. So that was one that other folks had kind of, you know, built their program kind of around. They kind of talked a lot about, it doesn't have to be a lot of different events, but really having one signature event that kind of, again, kind of is coupled with your mission. You know, you use that as a fundraising event. So those were some of the ideas that, you know, that came out of some of the research that I did with these folks, but I am happy to share this with you. It is quite comprehensive, but those were, and I think there's a slide at the end too where I can talk a little bit more about that.
About the NPRC or about the, it's the.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, but would you like this?
I would love it.
Yes, you can, this is, I'm sure how.
As a
Great.
quick aside,
There's only one.
the signature
Or
yearly event
NPRA.
for a recreation department does sound more like sort of a more active, polar opposite version of the mac and cheese fest we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that, because, I mean, the community definitely has signature events, but I was, you know, from how you were briefing, I was wondering if you use the comparison towns at all to say, some of these towns, I don't know what their signature events are. I mean, I go to Winchendon because I came from Winchendon. They have like a fall festival that becomes like a signature event. What I think what happens in our community is that we have several signature events, but they're run by, you know, different organizations. They have different purposes and otherwise. But again, if there was like some kind of coalescing agent to talk about, well, not all the money needs to go to that, or there can be different aspects to it, or maybe it's marketing, not just money that you're trying to earn, or
Combination of
fundraising.
both. It's
Yeah.
a kind of a double-edged sword. You can use it for two different things. One, to fundraise, and two, to spread the awareness and get people involved or engaged in the recreation program itself, so.
Yep.
I know the other piece that they talked a lot about is really having that sort of align with your vision, your mission, your values, and really have that tied to, you know, what is it that you know, that you're trying to accomplish and really getting that out to people and then having that kind of become part of
Yeah.
what drives.
And I think in terms of deciding what a signature event in each community was, it was very difficult from a bird's eye view to decide what the signature event is without imposing your own filter on it, so I think we chose not to compare
Yeah.
because we couldn't provide an honest, accurate comparison.
Right, and it's engagement for those things, and you can have all kinds of events. We just had our tree lighting. You know, some years it was Jack Frost. This year it was a Colonial Christmas, and I think there was about 50 people plus the band. Whereas mac and cheese, or you're talking thousands of people. So it's very interesting to talk.
Well, the
I
weather-
understand that as a limitation.
The weather was an issue that day.
Oh, it made it beautiful.
Yeah, it
It was
did.
awesome.
It was crazy.
I don't know what happened here with the numbers, but technical issue. But the overall idea here was the average satisfaction with offerings for different age groups. It seemed to be roughly average for children, but satisfaction doesn't really drop off for any activities offered for anyone over the age of 18. So I do believe that does show a heavy desire and need for more activities geared towards adults to get them involved as well.
One other positive, just to jump off of that, the highest level of satisfaction is elementary and middle school. I don't have the exact number, but the majority of participants in the recreation program are that age.
Okay.
So that's a positive to build off of, just to add that.
So overall, we do believe, through the survey, we found the respondents do have a strong desire for additional rec offerings, as mentioned. Mostly movie nights, the outdoor concerts, which can also, on top of reaching a large number of citizens, can be done for comparatively low costs. Like for outdoor movie nights, it was mostly just the cost of renting a projector, as long as you can get the movie. And you can also sell popcorn or other snacks during those events to also do some minor fundraising. And in order to expand offerings, you can also, through those, increase overall community involvement, allow the town to generate revenue through those minor fundraising events at those concerts and movie nights.
And just a quick question, when you make those statements, you're assuming it's a municipally run event? Okay,
Yes.
so then therefore municipal resources, okay, not so much partnerships. Okay,
We're not precluding partnerships.
Right.
But
I add that as an afterthought, but
Yeah,
it's still, that's looking at this, go back one slide, looking at that, it can be a tough pill to swallow if I don't have municipal resources, or if I lack partnerships.
But I think a part of it is that, the partnerships probably need to be created. I think,
Yeah, it's chicken or egg, and you say I can make 45 grand a year, doing 20, fee-based service, but if I don't do that, I'm not gonna get my resources, so
Correct.
that is a good point.
correct. So, and a part of it, I think, is that we could have gone on and on and on, and if we had another 6 weeks,
Right,
there'd be, even more to come up with. So I think this is a starting point.
yeah,
And I think I would look at everything that's in this survey, in this report, as kind of a midpoint, and there's certainly gonna be a range of activities that could expand or detract, or contract from this.
yeah,
You may find that the subscription fee service is maybe the easiest,
Mhm.
low-hanging fruit to pick from, but building partnerships may generate more long-term revenue.
Yeah.
And more long-term expansion of the program.
I agree,
So it's kind of like a list of ideas,
right,
and then, certain things are gonna work better given the nature of your community, certain things won't work as well.
yeah, but I think the way that you've presented it, you scratched that itch
Mhm.
in terms of, the questions that we would be asking. It jumps out at us, so thank you.
So the town partnerships is a good idea to bring up, because in our research, we did see that already happens with comparison towns. I believe it was with like Ayer and Shirley, who
Mhm.
share multiple programs.
Right.
So to improve engagement and build community connections, the first thing I recommend is that you go back to that website and you get your, the opportunities that you have. All your recreation activities you should list on your website. You should also provide a welcoming remark to encourage people to go to the Facebook page. And we also recommend that you could do some direct mail flyers, or perhaps
some help.
send flyers home with kids coming home from school that have your recreation offerings listed, as well as a link to the Facebook page so they know how to get there. Our next suggestion is crowdsourcing, which is basically creating a vision and connecting a group of people to that vision. And through that, you will have more funding and they will provide information. Now, the best example of that is GoFundMe, where someone is looking for money, say that they have cancer, and there's other people that connect with that because they have friends and family who have cancer, so they will donate to that cause because they personally connect with it. This alone will expand your social media presence, increase your engagement, and assist in task management, because when you have this form of crowdsourcing, when you build this social network, all these people, they expand what you already have. So if all these people like your page, they might share that page with their friends, and then they will share that with their friends, and it will keep building and expanding. The other suggestion is try to do some micro planning, where instead of trying to shoot for the big picture all at once, take baby steps. So say that you want so many volunteers by this date. You focus all your resources on doing that. Do that first. Move to your next step. Say you need so much money by this date, so much
New equipment.
new equipment, then that will be next, and that will be next, until you get to your big picture. And through all this, to make a crowdsourcing plan, to connect with people online, and to keep posting and doing what you're doing, it only takes a couple hours a week.
Okay, so for the recommendations and suggestions, these were things that we as a group came up with as far as concrete steps that you could take going forward to expand and improve upon what you already have as a great recreational program in this town. These are sort of strategic things you could start thinking about. Number one is dedicating a small amount of resources to your social media presence and trying to establish more of a connection with the residents of the town. Communicate your message out there of what you have to offer, what you're currently doing, and what your current needs are and what people can do to get involved. By putting a little bit of resources into that right there and getting your message to individuals in their homes would, help you to come up with more volunteers. It would help to generate interest in the program and to find more people who are willing to participate in the activities and participate in the planning and, the administration of some of those things. The next step was creating the subscription service with an affordable monthly payment. So the idea behind that is by putting it at $25 a month, it makes it seem like it's not that much, it's affordable, and it's something people can do without, wiping out their monthly budget, but it creates a better stream of revenue coming in over the course of the year for the Recreation Commission. Something a little more regular and recurring that you can plan on a little better than just, donations and things like that, which we'll cover more in the next slide, or the next couple slides. So as a good first step, though, is kind of take a layering approach to the fees and start by raising your fees for $15 right at the baseline, up to $45. You got this way. We felt that it would help you to keep pace with inflation and costs that are going up for administrating these programs and equipment and things like that. That was a good first step to.
If I could just interject, Ben, I think if the fee, I'm sorry.
No worries.
If the base fee for a sport is $45, there's a greater incentive for the subscription service. Because the folks who are involved in 3 or 4 sports over the course of a year at $45, it just makes more sense to go pay for the subscription service, and I think it creates greater buy-in. And we meant to add that point to the slideshow, and simply forgot.
And then create a consistent fundraising program. Maybe a core dedicated group of volunteers who could, form a committee and look into other things you could do, taking the suggestions that Beth had discussed before and using some of the resources that we provided to you for coming up with different ways and different programs you could participate in to, again, increase revenue, because in any small town government or big town government, it always comes down to the same bottom line, it's money, and where are you gonna get it, and you can't do more unless you get more. So that would be another great step. And then last would be to expand offerings to generate increased revenues, with expanded participation. Start with some new programs that you think could bring more people in to participate, and things that you could also use to generate some money for the fundraising aspect of it.
So again, just to kind of reiterate and just kind of break things down a little bit for you, I think we did go over this on the previous slide, but I think it clearly it would require somebody who, I keep kind of going back to the word, you know, a cheerleader, somebody who's like interested in driving this, somebody who enjoys outdoor activities, somebody who has an interest, a desire. It can be, you know, one individual who brings together other folks that, you know, within this research are really defined just as friends. You know, people that are interested in this to help kind of drive all this. But that it does in some ways come together as some sort of a committee that really drives kind of a strategic plan, because, you know, engaging in strategic planning is really important. And then they talk a bit about forming a resource development committee. So a resource development committee would really be, what do you need? What resources are you looking for? What are, this is really, again, specific to, you know, recreation, because I think, you know, equipment is expensive. The budget that you currently have really doesn't allow for, you know, the purchase of new equipment. So how do you generate those funds? And I think in some ways it also goes back to, again, kind of what's your mission? You know, why are you doing this? I think that people clearly are more engaged or more interested or more willing to give if they believe in your mission and they know what it is that you're collecting this money for.
And they see some level of organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's somebody who is kind of at the front, you know, talking about this. There's a lot of mention about, you know, kind of as a, you know, your mantra, like what are people talking about? What is your mission? What is your, you know, what is out there to people that's engaging them? Because that, you know, the two really go hand in hand. But there really needs to be somebody to drive that. Developing, again, a case statement is no more than just a mantra that aligns with your vision, your mission, and your values. So, I mean, you know, I think sometimes you kind of take that for granted, but I think sometimes, you know, people need to sit down and really talk about what's our mission, what's our vision, where do we want to go with this, what are our values around this, what's important to, you know, the folks that we're engaging with. Potentially, you know, coming up with some sort of annual fund development plan, some sort of membership campaign, direct mailing campaigns. You know, it talks a lot about, again, you know, the engagement piece is not just a one-shot deal, you know. It really has to be something that happens kind of over and over and over. There's also a lot of talk, it has to be able to be sustainable. You know, it has to be something that is continually kind of brought to the forefront, and that people are interested in as a result of what they see on Facebook, what they like, what they're engaged in. And then again, you know, this was just sort of an example again, and I think that in terms of a signature special event, I really looked at that as something that would be specific to the recreation department.
Right.
You know, what is something, again, that is a special signature event that is in line with your vision, your mission, and your
Right.
values?
And you gave some national ideas.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this was one that is something that nationally people celebrate and sometimes have their special signature event that is sort of in line with that date. Of course, there are so many things, and again, kind of goes back to, you know, these three things that need to be defined for your community specifically. So.
If I could circle back, could I go back one more slide?
Yep.
So that last one, expand offerings to generate increased revenues with expanded participation. You looked at our town and you know what our offerings are, what would be a recommendation for something that we don't do that would, where I could achieve that third bullet?
I think one of the things that came through loud in the survey was to add, whether it's a movie night or concerts. And I know there's a greater cost to a concert, but I think, especially in the warm weather movie nights.
Yeah.
On a school wall, or depending upon, I'm
Right.
not sure what particular facility would be best here. I think also there seemed to be a very strong demand for adult sports offerings. Now, I think the problem comes in, adult sports is a pretty broad range.
Yeah.
So who wants to do hockey? Who wants to do soccer? Et cetera. You
Right.
can see the problem there. I think the
I commute
low-hanging.
from Hanscom, and I would speed back on Route 2 if there was a softball league or something like that. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
So that, it may be.
That seems pretty popular.
I think the low-hanging fruit is the movie night. It's relatively easily attainable.
Yeah.
And there's some bang for your buck because you should get a fair amount of participation. You can kind of play with which movies get the most attendance, and then look at adding a sport here and adding a sport there. I don't think it's a survey, so it's hard to judge what the tone is necessarily. But we didn't get any comments that indicated that there was a huge dissatisfaction. It was much more of these.
No, I
are
don't
things we
mean
wanted
that,
to see.
yeah.
So I
Just
think-
something where you were looking at comparison towns, and, that bullet, that's what I thought of when you were briefing that, to say, what is something that I could, who said baby steps? Did you say baby steps?
Yes.
Yeah. Where you wind up doing something, you have an initiative, and you wind up being able to, spark, we have a program, it's how do we expand?
Yep.
Right.
And, additional adult sports, a great example of that would be the sport of pickleball. That is something that takes place in a lot of communities down in Hampton County and Hampshire
What do
County.
you say, pickleball?
Pickleball, oh, that's a
Yeah,
big one
it
now.
exploded
I
in
mean,
my
they're
last
saying outdoor
community.
concerts and outdoor movies. I mean, 62.5%.
Yeah, pickleball, I've heard, that's been on the
To the point
buzzword
where
lately.
people are packing town meetings to have floors resurfaced and down
Yeah.
walls, and have pickleball courts built at local parks in Westfield. At Stanley Park, there was a huge drive from the city council.
Google
And they did a lot of paving in that park for pickleball. A lot of excavation got done for that. So,
A lot of the towns like around me, I'm from Western Mass, but there are a lot of offerings for like yoga and volleyball. Like I've heard a surprising amount of people really wanting to play volleyball. Like there's a couple different offerings in different towns,
Yeah.
and you'd think, oh, maybe that's a lot of women. Mostly men, actually. Yeah, and it's
Curling.
like really crazy how people are like, oh, this is great. It gets me out of the house. It gives me something to do. So I think that adult sports are really easily like overlooked, but it's something as easy as being able to set something up in a gym, like volleyball.
And to fill that with the baby steps you were talking about, things like that, like volleyball is something pretty easy. You set up nets, you have a grass surface or a gym. It doesn't cost that much to do. You just need to get the people physically there and someone to organize that for it to happen. And that's something that just, you can build upon like baby steps to expand the program little by little without having to blast costs way up or expand too much, just step by step.
If I might, Mike, you need to really think outside the box, because in my last community, we had to convert 2 of the tennis courts to pickleball courts, believe it or not. And we had close to 80 55-plus folks trying to participate in this sport. And the 2 communities side by side were just, there was just no place to put it. I have no clue what it is, other than my rec director wanted money for it. But it is something that I think the rec committee can work through, and you try some of these low-cost things. And some things will work, some things won't. You have to find out what resonates for your community.
Yeah.
You chapter 90 money to pave Gilman.
I'll have you take that up with Bob.
Scott, have you met all of them?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That would be Highway Bob, not Sewer Bob, okay.
And then we'd be happy to take any other questions you guys have.
Well, thankfully, you've been able to answer a lot of the questions and take them along the way. Thank you for not making me wait to the end.
I was just curious if you did, I didn't see anything if you, men or women who answered the surveys, if you,
We did not break it down by gender, unfortunately.
not sort of, gender.
I think we probably should have, but I think by the time we get to 17 questions, the longer it gets, the less incentive there is for folks to answer it.
Did you happen to, when looking at comparison communities and places where the fees are more, did you happen to look at how that is set up as far as how people prefer to pay, you know, cash, check, card, their phones?
Yeah, we
and
didn't look into that level of it.
look at that to see how, I mean, because there's got to be some kind of a cost to account for that money, and especially if you start getting up 45, 50,000 or more. I was just curious if you had considered that as a result, if you build it and you start collecting this, is that realistic part of it? I was just curious if.
There were some that offered like online type things, like the one that was through, I think it was through their school, but like the town directly sent you to that. That was all online, like you had to log in and make like a username, password, whatever, set up whatever sports you wanted to do, and you could pay for that online. But it looked like a lot of them were, you know, cash or check, whatever you wanted to do. It looked like it was mostly all on paper, not on like a digital or electronic scale.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I do know that some of the software programs and stuff to set up like online scheduling and payments fees, or fees and inspections and things like that, can get really pricey too. So that is sometimes a cost.
Right, you gotta go to a
prohibitive.
hosting service or something
Yep,
like that,
and
yeah.
sometimes the cost outweighs the benefit.
Do you do that now, Scott?
Yep, I was just gonna chime in on that. We use Unipay, which the town uses for
Mhm.
their licenses and so forth, and
Yep.
it doesn't cost us a penny. It costs the user, but there's a charge for anything you charge online now. There's always a fee for credit
It's usually
cards.
pretty
Very
light,
small.
yeah.
It's like a quarter, a penny, whatever it is gonna be for every time you swipe your
I
card.
think that's exactly what it is, it's like a quarter.
But to Jeff's point, we wanna stay electronic, we wanna get out of that check, cash era. We've done it this year for soccer. I didn't not touch one check or one cash. It's all electronic, I never see it, goes into the treasurer, goes into the revolving account, and that's where it stays.
Yeah.
It's all, it
Through
stays where it's
Unipay.
supposed to stay. Yeah, through Unipay, yep. That's an online, through your phone, any mobile device, you can sign up through Unipay, and you can come to here and swipe through the card reader also, so.
You know, the part that I struggle with, and we talked about this at the all boards meeting last week, is we want to be on social media platforms. We want to be able to push that stuff out. And it's very powerful. But at the same time, I also want to reach out to the community members that may not have a smartphone or computer or want to be, solicited's too strong of a word, beckoned to come for that service. So I struggle with that aspect of it, to say, well, what else can I do, flyers or otherwise? And I did see that you addressed a little bit, yeah.
In my day job, I manage the operations for the PBTA, which is the bus company in Western Mass.
Okay.
And we struggle with that same dilemma, because we're trying to move primarily electronic
Right.
and digital, but there is a percentage of the population, probably close to 40% in our world.
Yep.
We focus on a much lower income population that doesn't have access to a digital media.
Right.
So it's just a matter of multiple platforms.
Right.
I think you'll find that the vast majority of your folks will access the digital platforms
Right.
available, but there will need to be some, whether it's, snail mail, whether it's leaflet posting around town, whether it's telephone calls through the
Yep.
automatic dialing
Crowds,
system.
one of you briefed crowdsourcing.
Yep.
Yep.
And crowdsourcing can be used to partner with social media and with just old-fashioned reaching out and telephone calls, leafleting, knocking on doors or whatever. You can build a hybrid system.
Yeah. And then the other side, from trying to do, to satisfy that population, then, I thought PayPal was, the preferred, but apparently it's Venmo. It's really trying to engage all of what the emerging technologies is, because Unipay is great, water bill, anything like that. But in terms of flexibility and trying to bring people into the program, that's an aspect too of it, to say, all right, well, we're gonna integrate Venmo. Can we do that? Yes, we can. All right, great, now we can advertise that we can do that. I then have just attacked an entire demographic who knows what Venmo is.
And I think if I might just kind of, there's a number of us that are in another class, which is information management. And I think that we all kind of agree, we sort of had some side conversations as it related to this, because I think that the newer generation is much more transparent, and is much more vocal, you know, and I think that there's an element of, and I think, you know, I'm an older person, like I kind of read this stuff and I say, oh my dear, like that doesn't sound good. Like we shouldn't open ourselves up to that. But that's the world that we're living in today. You know, the conversations that happen, and they're not all good, like they're just not, but I think that there's a lot of information that comes out of that stuff that's really, really good, because I think it kind of, for me, goes back to that old philosophy of like, you know, if something's not working, you want to know it, right? Like you want people to tell you so you can fix it, as opposed to just like not doing it ever again. You know, and I think that that's kind of, and that's a big part of the class that a number of us are in, is just that whole aspect of transparency and kind of putting yourself out there and giving people everything. And because then you kind of get back, you know, you really get people talking, and talk is good. You know, any kind of talk is good, because it's free publicity for you in terms of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you know? So, just
Any other questions?
No.
Anyone in the audience might have it? Scott, yes.
First off, I want to thank Adam for driving this whole process. Without him, you know, taking it by the hand and saying, you really need to look at your program and see where you need to go with, are you in the right spot? Talking about budgets and numbers and things that we need to improve on. And for him to bring this group to Templeton,
Yeah.
little tiny Templeton, to have such a broad study is amazing, because I've been doing this for 2 years now, and it's you're just shoveling against the tide. You don't know where to start, and everything they did, I've been trying to do for 2 years, but I'm one person.
Right.
They're a group, a team that put it all together and put it on paper, and now we have a baseline to go off of,
Yeah.
which we've never had.
Right.
Never. Just to hit on some points, the movie night, we did do one last summer, and we had more attendance in that one night the Garden had all summer.
Wow.
One night. We had an ice cream shark, it was amazing.
Yeah,
That was one night. It was,
Just out of curiosity, which movie was it?
Sherlock Gnomes.
Oh.
Pretty funny movie. So it was, you know, we had the concession stand open. It was a great night. It was a beautiful night, and like I said, the people were coming from Gardner because they absolutely loved the park that it was in. It's the 30-acre park. It's wide open. Put a screen right down in the middle of the field, and everybody just laid on a blanket. So it was nice. It was nice. Concerts. That's me and Jackie have talked numerous times, and trying to get that together is very hard. It's to find, you know, people that'll do that for, you know, because you don't want to go out of your budget to get a band to play and not make any profit off that night. So that's another challenge, but we'll get together on that with the cultural council and so forth. We'll put that together. But I have the park. They do the rest. You know what I mean? So we give them the park to do that. They just got to put everything inside. So, but the movie night was a huge success, and we were going to do it this year. It just didn't happen. Different things happened. We just couldn't get the other. But
I'd love to make a comment on summer concerts in particular. I used to live in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, and I live in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Both of those towns do like a summer concert series, and they have been wildly successful. Like I know it's super hard to pull together in the beginning, but it's one of those things like once you kind of get the ball rolling, they've been going on for, I think the one in Pittsfield has been going on for, I want to say like 10 years, close to 10 years, and it's a really good thing. Like you've got bands that pretty much every year come back, and sometimes they add some, and sometimes you know it rotates. But I think that's been a huge thing for the town. That would definitely be. I would encourage you.
the city of Gardner has been doing it for at least 10, 20 years.
Didn't we do it at the gazebo with Steve Babineau? Don't we do concerts at the gazebo?
There used to be a concert series.
Yeah.
They stopped doing them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's been a while
Oh,
since
has it?
anybody's
Yeah.
done anything
Yeah,
there.
we suffer from, that person used to do it. And, you know, we almost lost the Arts and Crafts Fair this year because we didn't have a volunteer base. Thank God that somebody stepped up, and I don't know who it was. Thankful for them. Anything else, Scott?
Like I said those 2 points were key. Volunteerism is a challenge, even for boards in town. It's constantly looking for that person. Everybody's busy, everybody has 1,000 things to do, so it's hard to fill that spot, and my whole board is all volunteers. We work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and we do this another 40 hours a week, so it's a lot of work for, you know, the time that we have, and at the end of the day, our vision has always been about the kids. That's our recreation, but now with this survey, you can see that we need to broaden our vision and our mission and our goals to get the adults, and we did offer. We put out softball one summer, we put out volleyball one summer, we put out, I think it was co-ed basketball. Kickball we put out there, and nothing. It just never really got off the ground. We don't know why. We put it out, we thought we advertised enough, but it just never really got off the ground. People, yeah, I'll do it, and it never really got off the ground. So we get it out there, people bite at it, and it never comes back to materialize. So that's been one of our challenges too. They say yes real quick, and then it never really gets off the ground. So that's a challenge. It's frustrating because you have all the plans in place, and it never really. And we have the facility, we have everything we need, but we just can't get it off the ground. So I think we definitely need that advertising, that social media push, that the leaflets, the schools, and the school is very, very, very good to us. They provide our gyms, they provide our, getting the pamphlets out to the kids, and they give me the numbers per school so I can get those flyers out to them, and they're very good about that. So we just have to get that process stepped up, I think, a little bit more to get the word out. I mean, there's 8,000 plus people in town, so I don't know the logistics of, how many 45 to 50-year-olds. I don't know that breakdown of how many kids per household or anything like that, but I'm sure we could find out.
Oh, yeah. I was reviewing it when we were talking about male, female. I was just looking at that.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's sources where we can
So
get
if we
that
could dial
pretty
in on
quickly.
that group, you know what I mean, that would help. But that's the whole partnership thing we need to all come together with, because without them, I can't do my part. So that's why I really appreciate Adam bringing this all together, because without
Absolutely.
him, this would have never happened. I still would have been reaching for stars and trying to get this information together where they just pull it all together for me. So
Do you think, I had two things. Do you think it's something that the Recreation Committee can come up with a mission statement and
Yep. Now that we have.
mantra?
Right, yeah,
That
that's
was
smart.
really
Yep.
cool. And do any of the businesses in town sponsor?
Yeah,
They
there's
do.
a lot of sponsors, a lot. But there's so many, and there's so many different levels that we're at, so
Yeah.
we really have to drill in on that too, because they're very generous. The town is very, very generous to the recreation department. I mean, the light department is huge, they all wanna help as much as they can. So that's what makes this town so special, because everybody wants to help, but trying to pool all those resources is a lot of work.
Good, thank you, Scott. Well, thank you. Thanks for driving, Jeff, Doctor. Thank you very much. It was a very, very informative. We've got plenty of takeaways. Thank you, Beth. Is there anything else?
No,
Any
excellent
final-
presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
absolutely. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
But I think it's amazing that you offer free swimming. I think
That's
really important for kids.
Tell Mr. Kerry.
I think that's really important for kids. So
It is important.
it's a life skill that can save lives.
It does, believe me, over the years, I've heard some stories.
I'd like to make a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Did you hear that, Mike? Thank you. Mike, did you hear that?
5-minute recess. 5-minute recess.
He said, oh.
Okay. Anyone want to second that 5-minute recess motion?
Me.
Second. All in favor of 5-minute recess?
What's
Say
your
aye.
name? I'm sorry.
Okay. We're in 5-minute recess.
I come from West.
Oh, you do?
So
Oh, what brought you out here?
We have to make a motion to accept the
Oh,
recreation
cool.
study report
Okay.
when we come back into session.
I don't know if you know that, but I think that that's so important.
This was just the page.
you. I do too.
Don't change, like I highlighted specifically what you guys are.
Nice meeting you.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
mashed it up with all the other towns.